Good afternoon or evening or morning. I'm not sure when you're watching this video. I'm Jay Simpson, and again, I'm your instructor for this course. So you've already heard from me in two of the other orientation videos, but I want to do a video with you now to walk you through My Accounting Lab. My Accounting Lab, or MAL as I like to abbreviate it, is the program where you're going to access your e-textbook as well as do all of your assignments, your homework, and your DSMs. Your tests are in Blackboard, but all of your homework and DSMs are in My Accounting Lab. So I want to walk you through some of its features, how you access it, and all of that information. Now, if you've already used a MyLab product before, then you're probably familiar with it, but how you're going to access that program is a little bit different this semester. Now, this again is a TCC Plus program, so you have already paid for your textbook and your access code. You don't have to pay anything differently now, anything separately now. You've already paid for all of that information. So here we are in our Blackboard course. Now, of course, I get to be the instructor and you don't, so my course looks a little bit different than yours probably does, but it's pretty similar. So when you scroll down here, you'll notice that there's a section here on the left that has lots of My Accounting Lab information. Here's the registration instructions. So after this video, if you want to go back and look at that and see exactly how you access it, you can. If you have any problems with My Accounting Lab and you need to access tech support, here's the link for that. Here's the link directly to the assignments. Now, this is not where you're going to go to register, so we're going to come back to this in a minute. But here, this course materials, this is where you're going to go to access My Accounting Lab for the very first time so that you can register for My Accounting Lab. Now, you've already paid for it, but you do still have to actually go in and register for My Accounting Lab. So I'm going to click on course materials, and it's going to go through here and launch a little bit. It's going to take it a minute, so just give it a second. Now, I can't walk you through the actual registration process because, of course, I'm already registered, but it's going to pull up something like this. You'll see that here's the information. This is the textbook we're using. You do not have to pay the $66.15. You already paid that when you paid your tuition. Now, for you, it's going to ask you to either create a Pearson account or log in. If you've ever used a Pearson product before, you already have a MyLab account, then you just need to go in and log in with that username or password. If you don't remember the password, click Forgot Password and they'll send you an email. If you have never, ever used a MyLab product before, then you'll create a username and password. Just make sure that your name that you register for, kind of sort of closely resembles what your actual name is. Now, from this point, you have two options. You have Launch Courseware and you have Read Now. Read Now is how you're going to access your e-textbook. So let's click on that real quick, pardon me. Now, the e-text is super important that you read. I really cannot stress enough how important it is that you read your textbook. Okay, I understand that accounting textbooks are not the most exciting thing to read. I understand that they're boring, but it's vitally, vitally, vitally important that you read the textbook. And let me explain to you why. The way our brains work is our brains work almost like a filing cabinet. So when your brain is presented with new information, we know we have two sides to our brain, left brain and right brain. By the way, people aren't left-brained or right-brained. You use both sides of your brains all the time. But when you're presented with new information, those sides of their brain start firing electrical impulses back and forth across your brain. They're called synapses. And so you're firing these synapses across the brain, and basically one side of your brain is saying, hey, here's new information, and the other side of your brain is saying, okay, let me dig back in my filing cabinet of my brain, if you think of your brain like a filing cabinet, and see if I have any prior information, any prior knowledge that I can pull forward and connect with that new information. And so when your brain pulls forward this old information that you have, your prior knowledge, it's going to shoot an electrical impulse back across. And when those electrical impulses connect, the new information and the connection with the old information, your brain actually starts growing. It starts growing fingers. Your brain starts growing these fingers across the two sides and they connect. And the bigger and the stronger the fingers are, the more you know that knowledge, the more that you retain that knowledge. Now, here's the thing, and I'll come back and talk about this in a little bit. Those fingers can shrink, okay? So we can grow them and we can shrink them if we don't use that information, but we want to grow them. So here's the thing about accounting. Unlike pretty much all of your other classes, you have no prior knowledge in accounting. Most of you have none. Maybe you took a class in high school, so you have some, but most of us have none. And this makes accounting very different from all of the other classes. When you walk into a history class, you have some prior knowledge. You know that there were 2 world wars. You can find America on a map. You know, Nazis bad. We have some prior knowledge. When you walk into a math class, even though you're going to learn lots of new things, you have some prior knowledge. You know how to add, subtract, multiply, divide. You know order of operations. You have some prior knowledge. But with accounting, you have no prior knowledge. And here's the thing, even what you think you know is probably wrong. Okay, so normally on the first day of class, I ask the students this question and I say things like, if I were to ask you what's your income, what would you tell me? And most people would tell me, oh, it's, the amount of money I make. It's my paycheck. That's not your income in accounting. That's your revenue. That's not your income. If I were to tell you that we're going to debit the cash account, would you think that we spent money or we got money? Most of us would probably think we spent money because when we use our debit card, we're spending money. But that's not what debiting the cash account means. In fact, debiting the cash account means we got money. So again, what we find is that a lot of times in everyday layman's terms and everyday language, people use accounting terms, but they're using them differently. Dare I say, even incorrectly. So part of the hardest part of accounting is to grasp the language, because what you think is not correct. And therefore, you've got to read the book so that, let me explain this. When you read the book, you're going to read chapter 1 and you're going to go, well, that was a waste of, 10, 15 minutes. I got nothing out of that. Nobody expects you to read the book and suddenly understand it and be able to go do the homework and answer questions. That's not the point at all. Reading the book is like stretching before you go for a run. If you're an athlete and before you do an athletic event, you stretch to prime your muscles to get them ready. Reading the book is like stretching and priming your brain to get it ready to learn. So you're going to read the book, you're going to go, yeah, well, I didn't get anything out of that. But then when you go watch the first video for chapter 1 and you take notes, like we went over in the Blackboard handout, in the Blackboard video, now, when you're presented with this new information, when you've presented with these new terms, when your brain starts firing these synapses, now the other side of your brain is going to go, oh, wait, I remember seeing that diagram in the textbook when I read it. I remember hearing that word and thinking it didn't mean what I thought it meant. Now you've got something else to fire back these synapses, and you're going to start forming these fingers. So it's super important. You cannot learn anything if you do not form fingers. So super important that you read the book. So this is our ebook here. I'm going to go to the table of contents. We're going to go to chapter 1 and start here with why is accounting important. And here we can see our e-text. It's going to pull up here in a minute. Here we go. So now I can start reading through chapter 1. I can read through the objectives. I can read through. Now again, nobody's really asking you to sit here and read and take notes and read to understanding. What you want to do is what we call active reading, which is kind of a cross between reading like a book and skimming. We don't want to skim, we want to actively read. So here's the deal. You want to read the first paragraph of every new section. So here we have a section, why is accounting important? I want to read this first paragraph. I also want to read any sentence that has a word in bold in it. And then I want to make sure I pay attention to any diagrams. So that's really the key thing here is you want to read all of it, but those are what you want to pay the most attention to. Okay? We want to really focus on these important information here. Then again, when you go to watch the videos, you'll be amazed, and you may not even realize it until you don't read the book, but you'll be amazed at how much more of the information you retain. See, the key is I want you to learn how to work smarter, not harder. So this research on how our brain works tells us that, first of all, we've got to have some prior knowledge so we can form those fingers. But in order to keep the fingers, we have to see something a minimum of 5 times, and ideally each one of those times occurs within 12 to 24 hours. Because what happens is if you see information one time and then you don't look at it again, your brain's going to go, oh, well, that's not very important information, and those fingers are going to actually shrink back in your head. We can see this on brain scans. You can see learning occurring and you can see learning not occurring. So how many of us, and normally I would say, you don't have to show me a hand, but just answer this your own personal self. How many of us like to sit down one day a week and I'm just going to power through my homework? Like maybe it's Sunday afternoon. That's the day I'm going to power through my homework. Well, that's fine. You can do that. But then what happens is next Sunday, when you sit down to power through the next chapter of homework, you don't remember any of the information that you learned last Sunday. Because any fingers that you grew during that power session, they've shrunk back because it's been 7 days since you looked at that information. So the key is, instead of having to start over from scratch every Sunday, you want to do a little bit every day to keep that information, to keep those fingers formed, okay? So maybe you read the book one day, and then you watch the videos on this and take notes on the second day, and then you do your homework on the third day, and then you do the DSMs on the 4th day. And so you get in the cycle where you do a little bit every day instead of powering through. But then it becomes so much easier because you're never losing the information. Those fingers are staying stored there. All right, so let's jump back to Blackboard. So we've looked at the textbook. Now, I want to go into, this is where you really get into my accounting lab, is launch courseware. So we've signed in, we've created an account, or we've signed in with Pearson. I'm going to say launch courseware. So this is going to pull up here in a minute. It's going to take a minute. There we go. Here we go. So I want to open, now again, I get to be the instructor and you don't, so I have a few tools here that you don't see, but I want to open MyLab in Mastering. This opens now my accounting lab. So I've gone in here and I've got, this is what your home page of your course looks like. Now, a couple of things I want to point out. Here's a link to the e-text as well. So if you're already in my accounting lab and you want to click the e-text, you can. What you really want to do is come down here to assignments. So when I click assignments, I want to then click do homework. So now I'm looking under do homework and I can see all of my assignments listed here. Now you'll notice that most chapters, in fact everything but chapter 7, has a homework assignment and a DSM. And you'll see the due dates listed. Note that all assignments are due at 11:59 p.m. That is Central Standard Time. On the due date that's listed. You have unlimited attempts at the homework. So it means you can do a little bit today and maybe you need to come back tomorrow and finish it. That's okay. You can do a little bit at a time. So let's jump into a homework question so I can kind of walk you through it. So I'm going to jump down here to, let's do a chapter 3 homework question. So when I pull up my homework question, you can see all the questions that are listed here. And I'm just going to pick one. Let's see. Now it will open in a new window. One thing, let me go ahead and say, you need to make sure that you have your pop-up blockers turned off. And if you are using Safari on a MacBook, if you receive a subscription error, it just means that you need to change some of your security settings. So I usually just Google Pearson, MyLab, Safari, security error, and it will tell me what to change. I tend to use Google Chrome, and that works pretty well. If you have issues, if it starts not working one day, you can always try a different browser. Firefox sometimes works, but tends to Google Chrome works pretty well. So you've got your homework, your pop-up blockers turned off, and it's going to pop up here and show you the homework assignment. Let's go to a different question. Trying to find one that has some data here that I want. All right, this is a good one. So I realize you don't know how to do any of this. That's not important, okay? So here I've got this question here. Now I can click on the icon and this gives me the information. So I'm asked to do a journal entry where a business receives $3,400 on January 1st for a 10-month contract, January 1st through October 31st. Okay, I realize that doesn't mean anything to you, and that's okay. But I'm going to come down here and do a journal entry. So I'm going to click in here and notice it gives me a pop-up box with lots of options here. And I'm going to choose cash first, and I believe the amount was $3,400, so I'm going to type that in. And then I'm going to choose, let's say, prepaid insurance and $3,400. All right, so come back. There we go. Now I'm going to choose check answer down here at the bottom, and it says, oh, I'm sorry, you were incorrect. Okay, that's fine. Let's see, I think that I want to now change this to this, and let's see, what was the amount? All right, let's do that. So I'm going to press check answer now a second time. It says, oh my goodness, I'm sorry, you are still wrong. But notice that I got something right. This 340 was correct, so it froze that answer. It's not going to let me change it once I get it correct. Because let me ask, how many times have you been working a problem, you know it's wrong, but you don't know what's wrong, so you just start changing everything, right? This won't let you do it. Okay, great. So I'm going to choose now, again, and I'm going to press, final check. That sounds ominous, okay, but I'm going to press final check, and again, it's going to say, I'm sorry, you were still incorrect. But notice now, it gives me the correct answers. It tells me, by the way, this is what the correct answer is. And it moves me on to the next question. Now, remember I told you get unlimited attempts at the homework. Well, when you finish all of these questions, you can come down here and where it says check answer, it will say try again. And you can just keep doing that question over and over again. It's going to give you different scenarios until you get 100% of the points. Now, what if you don't know how to do it? Like, clearly I don't know how to do this problem, right? Well, I can go up here to question help. Now, the question help is a little bit different on each question, but all of them are going to have something similar. So you'll either have a help me solve this or a demo docs or a video. And these are flash videos that walk you through how to solve a very similar problem. You also have a direct link to the e-text. So if you click this, it's going to open up the ebook at exactly the point that you need to read to figure out how to solve this problem. There's also a link to the calculator if you just don't have one handy, and then Ask My Instructor. So what Ask My Instructor does is it will send me a link to your problem with a screenshot of exactly what you have entered in your exact problem. And so then you can say, you can write down, here's what I thought, and I'm not really sure why this is incorrect, and you can send me a question. Now, what you don't want to do is send me and Ask My Instructor to a blank question and say, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to get started. No, you need to try it first. But you can send me this, and then when I check my email, I can see exactly what you answered and maybe figure out where you went wrong. All right, so we'll save that when we get out of it, okay? Yes, I want to leave, and I'm going to get out of this. Go back over here to do homework. So notice now it's updated. I now have a score. Granted, it's 0.36%. I have less than a 1, so it's not a very high score, but I do have a score. Now let me go ahead and address the grades right now. So Pearson and Blackboard are set up to automatically grade sync. It is not an instantaneous grade sync. What this means is typically TCC has it set up where once every 2 hours, it will sync the grades between Pearson and Blackboard. So that means when you do your homework and you get done and you go look in Blackboard and your grade is not there, do not panic. You don't need to send me an email and say, I did the homework and my grade's not there. It will come over. It just takes a little bit. Now, I say it normally takes about 2 hours, but that can be different, especially if they're working on something in the system. So if there's anything wrong in our TCC system and they're working on it, what they do is first thing is turn off that sync feature because it eats up a whole lot of bandwidth. So it can take up to, I'm going to say 48 to 72 hours sometimes for your grades to appear. Do not panic. When the due date has passed, so on the morning of June 4th, in this example, I will go into Blackboard on my side and I will do what's called a grade refresh, which will pull all the grades over at that time. If at that point in time you don't see your grade come over, then you can send me an email, but don't panic. The other thing that may happen is you're doing your homework and you finished it and you make 100 and you go look in the grade book and it says you have a 22. Well, that just means when Blackboard and Pearson did their sync, you had a 22. You were 22% through the homework. Don't worry. The next time it syncs, it will correct itself. So you don't need to panic about that. All right, let's look at the DSM. So the DSMs, if you've ever done LearnSmarts with Connect, it's similar. It's like a flashcard type of system. So when you open it up, again, make sure your pop-up blockers are turned off. You're going to get a series of questions, multiple choice questions, and you're going to answer it. So let's look at this one here. And I understand that you don't know the answers to this, and that's okay. So Williams Travel Service purchased Lincoln for cash. How would this affect the accounting equation? All right. I think assets would increase and assets would decrease. So when I click that answer the first time, it's going to say, all right, if you are unsure, you click it one time and notice that your circle is half filled in. If you click it twice, that says you are confident, you are sure, you are confident in your answer. So I'm really sure that this is the correct answer. And so I'm going to press submit. And by the way, woohoo, I was correct. So I was sure, I was confident, and I was correct. So notice I have a dark green bar up here. All right, let's look at the next question. Here I'm told Donner performed services, blah, 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 blah. All right, I am really sure that that is a net income of $15,600, and I'm feeling really confident, so I'm going to press my button twice. And oh no, I was confident, but I was very wrong. So notice I have a dark red bar up here now. This means I don't know this concept, and so the DSM is going to give me lots of more questions on this concept until I consistently get them correct and I am confident in it. All right, so I've been incorrect now. I'm a little worried here. Okay, all right. I think in this answer the equity is 10,000, but I'm a little scared to say I'm confident. My confidence is shaken here. So I'm just going to click it twice. I'm going to say I'm unsure. So I'm going to press submit. Now I was correct, but I was unsure. So notice that I have a light green bar up here. This means I'm going to again get more questions on this until I consistently get them right and I'm confident. Okay, so you can work the DSMs as many times as you like. Ideally, you want to work them until you have dark green bars all the way across and you have 100%. You don't have to do it all in one setting. Maybe you work on it 5 minutes a night just to practice, to keep yourself refreshed. But as much as you've gotten correct on the due date, that's what your grade will be. So I'm going to get out of that. All right. So go back over here to the main menu. We've looked at the assignments tab. Let me go here. Your student home will look like this. We've looked at the assignments tab. We've already looked at the e-text tab. You can go down here in the multimedia library. These are some videos and other things like this that are resources for you that My Accounting Lab provides. Let's jump back over to Blackboard now. So here I am back in the Blackboard course. I'm going to go back to my home page. So that was when we had gone in through course materials. Now, if I wanted to just go in and do an assignment, I can. You can go in through course materials, or you can just click My Lab and Mastering Assignments. And here you have a list of all of the assignments. So here I could just jump in to straight into that chapter 1 DSM. Oh goodness, it's going to be difficult now for me. Here we go. So I could jump straight into that homework question and just start working right here. So you can, the first time, remember the first time you have to go through course materials. But once you've gone through course materials, you can just go through the assignment link. Now, one note about the eText, you're accessing the eText through VitalSource, and VitalSource is a separate non-Pearson product, and that means that through VitalSource, if you access it through VitalSource, you will have access to this eText even after the course ends. You will not have access to My Accounting Lab, but you will have access to the eText. So this is everything that I have for you today. Again, please make sure, again, you can go through these registration instructions. They'll walk you through screenshots, how to register for My Accounting Lab the first time. And if you have any problems or any issues, you want to go down here and contact tech support. All right, I'm looking forward to a great semester.